I live a good life. I'm married. My wife and I are both healthy. We got 3 beautiful young girls. And I've accomplished a number of things. I'm 36 years old. But when I tell you the best time of my life was like those 2 weeks when the Clippers were booty. Oh my God, it was fantastic.
Yesterday showed why he could be a number 1 wide receiver on any other team.
Bron's 1 ring in Cleveland over that Golden State Warriors team has more weight than any ring that Michael Jordan won.
Tyreek Hill's the most dangerous non-QB in the NFL.
Welcome back to another episode of The Bench, Mob Ent podcast, the best sports podcast in New Jersey. We got on a special guest with us today, David Rushing. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm really happy to be here. I know we've been trying to do this for like probably like a month now, it seems. But kids, sick kids schedules, holidays, it all kind of got in the way. But I'm glad we were finally able to link.
Adulting 101, essentially. That's what happened. For those that do not know who David Rushing is, he is the co-host of Rush Vibes. Go check that out. New episode dropped recently, talking about what we're going to talk about a little bit, NBA Friends Community, and a bunch of other stuff they have on there that's really good. And, of course, lover of cigars, whiskey, bourbon. And now for those that, may know him as this, a.k.a. the mayor of NBA Threads Community. I call him the commish. He is on the show with us today. Starting off there, did you think when you hopped on Threads, it was like, yo, this is a new app, that it would blow up to what it is now? No,
I didn't. I had no idea. I was excited for it. That's kind of what my personality is. I'm sort of like an early adopter. That's something my wife picks on me about a lot, because something will come out and she'll like, why are you interested in that? And I'm just like, I don't know, because it's new, it's fresh, right? So, I mean, I've been on Twitter since I was in college. So back in between 2006, 2010, and then, from then on, but never really got any kind of engagement. I'm not one of those people who are able to build like a large account. I was mostly consuming content. I wasn't really putting anything out that anybody cared about. So it got to the point where, all the stuff that was going on with Elon and bots and blue checks, going out to everybody who wants one. I was just kind of looking for a new space on social media. And it just so happened, I think it was during the playoffs last year, was watching, I think, a Lakers game. And I saw an article from The Verge had dropped saying that Threads has, this Twitter competitor that they're getting ready to drop. And then when it launched in July, I was just like, let me check it out. And it's crazy now when I think about it, because nobody, there was really no engagement going on that first week, even though 100 million people signed up, right? But for me, nobody was really interacting with anything I put out. So I think I noticed after like that first week, when all the activity started to drop off, I was like, I'm not really, maybe this isn't it for me, right? So I didn't really mess with it from July, whenever it dropped, till the NBA season started. And I think even during the preseason, I put out a post was like, hashtag NBA Threads, is anybody here? It was like nothing. It was like 0 likes, 0 reposts, probably like 0 views, like nothing. And I was like, all right, I guess not. But I didn't want to go back to Twitter. So opening night, I got on and I put out a post just to see if anybody anybody else was around this time. And people started jumping in, responding, saying, oh, they're going for this team, they're going for that team. And so I did that, I think, every night during opening week, and like more and more people would jump in. And it was just crazy. Like, I had no idea that anybody was going to respond. I had no reason to expect anybody to respond based on what had happened previously. But it happened, and, it worked out. And that's kind of, for me, that's how the whole NBA Threads thing got started. That was my intro to it. But no, I had no idea it was going to do what it's done, both just as a platform and then, just for me personally. It's all really, really new for me.
Shout out to you, because I was just like you. I was on there in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was like, I ain't seeing nothing. I logged off. I come back on and it's blew up completely. I'm like, dang, I should have stayed on the whole time, bro. Like,
yeah.
I came back and I'm like, oh, it's a whole community here. Like you said, My engagement is way more on Threads than probably like any other app.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's not like there aren't big accounts from Twitter or Instagram on Threads. Like they are, but not every one of them has comparable engagement. And that's because Threads is so different. Like you said, it's really about community. So if you're just somebody who wants to put out thirst trap, posts, you're probably not going to get the love you're getting on Instagram or Twitter. But if you're somebody who's trying to like, talk about that set the Celtics ran 3 times in a row yesterday against the Lakers, Threads might be the place for you because it's going to require like engagement. It's going to require conversation. So that's how Threads works differently. And it's so funny seeing people like, not funny, but it's interesting seeing people who have bigger accounts complain about no engagement. And then you go look at their page and it's just like, okay, now I see it, because you're not really putting in any effort. You're thinking your followers, your numbers are going to do all the work for you, and you actually kind of got to get in and roll your sleeves up a little bit. So
yeah, it's definitely some work you got to put into it. And they just think, oh, I got my 2.5 million over here on Twitter. It's just going to translate over.
Yeah.
Nah. It's actually more organic, actual community there. Now, you mentioned the Lakers. We both are Lakers fans.
Right.
Terrible Christmas showing. Before we even get into what's going on with this season, when did you become a Lakers fan? What drew you to be a Lakers fan? What's the origin story of that?
Yeah. So I want to get to that. But before I do, I just wanted to give you your props and your flowers. I think it's really important, when people bring you on, just not to talk about yourself or whatever, because just like you took interest in me, I took interest in you whenever we connected. The fact that your podcast has like 289 episodes and you've only been doing it for like 3 years is ridiculous. Let me tell you, there's people out here doing something 289 times is not easy. I don't care what it is. So the fact that you've done it, you've sat down intentionally and, thought out, sketched out, produced, curated, edited, put out into the world an episode of your portion of your podcast 289 times is crazy. And I like that you cover different like levels of athletics. You're not just NBA or NFL, like you're covering like local athletes, collegiate athletes, and telling people stories. And whether it's 4 people look at it, 30 people, 200 million, the fact that you're committed enough to your craft, again, to do it 289 times, but then also to cover people, who aren't headliners, but still give them an opportunity to get their story out. I think that's really incredible. I think it's needed. And I appreciate it just as somebody who it's hard for us to sit down and do our podcast from week to week. So, the fact that you've been able to do it with such consistency, I think that's, has to be highlighted. So I just wanted to do that before we got too far into it. But as far as me, Lakers, so I've kind of always been a Lakers fan, whether I knew it or not. My parents met in LA. They got married in Los Angeles. Both of my older brothers were born in Los Angeles. I was born in Woodbridge, Virginia, which is in the DMV. But my whole house, like, they always rooted for the Lakers. Like, my dad was always, anytime the game was on, he's watching a Laker game. And then my brothers, obviously, they rooted for the Lakers. Now, when I actually got introduced to the league, like when I actually was like following basketball, knew what was going on, I was probably like in my early teens. I got into basketball a little later, probably than most people, but it was right around the time Kobe and Vince were out. So my middle brother loved Kobe. I love Vince. He's still my favorite player of all time. So we would always kind of root against each other. I would root obviously for Toronto. When they played the Lakers, I would root for Toronto. But yeah, if the Lakers weren't playing Toronto, I wanted to see them do well, because who didn't like Kobe, right? And who didn't like Shaq, right? Like that team was special. So been sort of like a fan adjacent since my early teens, but probably within the last 3 or 4 years, I just decided like, okay, let me just go ahead and buckle in and actually root for the Lakers, because one of the reasons why I went away from Twitter was because it was kind of toxic with, this player is better than that player, or, this player is not the GOAT, that player is the GOAT. And it really took a lot of the, and I didn't even realize it was happening subconsciously, but it took a lot of the joy out of the game for me, because everybody's being torn down to build somebody else up. And there's just so many out of the history of basketball and any sport, really, just the amount of talent that's come through the league, like as long as it's been in existence, like there's just so many great players and so many great teams where I really just kind of backed away from the whole favorite player, favorite team thing. And I just wanted to be, a purist and really just enjoy the game in general. If Milwaukee's playing Indiana on the second night of a back-to-back, Giannis is sitting, I'm still watching it, right? Because I just love basketball that much, and I just want to see the best basketball players in the world play. But once LeBron came back to the Lakers, I started to appreciate him a lot more just as a player, as a man. And I was just like, let me just lock in, continue the tradition of Rushing's, actively rooting for the Lakers. But the flip side of it is the heartbreak. So like when your team goes 2-6 in the last 8 games since they won the IST. So that's the stuff I don't love. And of course, my wife is from Massachusetts. She's a Celtics fan. So, she's on my neck. She's been on my neck a lot lately. So that part's tough. But no, all in all, it's really, I've always been around the Laker fandom. So it just made sense for me when I decided, okay, let me actually have a favorite team again.
Hey, before you get into that, because we definitely want to touch on that. So what you said earlier, all glory to God, appreciate it. What you said too is literally what I try to do. That's why I called it Bench Mob. For those that's watching, for those that's listening that never heard the origin story, Bench Mob ENT. The title is because of that. People that are on the bench, and from watching sports and loving basketball, you always got those people like, yo, he the 8th man on the bench. I could probably beat him. He booty. But in actuality, that 8th, 9th man will go give you 50 if given an opportunity to play.
Yeah. Easy. Yeah.
Same thing across life in general. The people that are on the proverbial bench, that are at the D3 school, that plays field hockey, they got a story to tell too.
Yeah.
So we're going to always tell their stories. We're going to always reach out to those people. Of course, we love to have Bron on. Bron, if you watch this, we love to have you on. But we're going to have on any and everybody else also because they have stories to tell. They are also valuable. Lakers, like you said, since the in-season tournament, have been struggling. And I've said this as a Lakers fan, and like you said, I just love the sport.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those fans that's like oblivious. Like, the Lakers have a lot of question marks I feel that need to be answered, and it's been up and down, inconsistent play.
Yeah.
The in-season tournament, of course, I'm glad they won. Exciting. It was good. But I was sitting back as a real understanding the game of basketball and looking at them like, the Lakers are that veteran team that for the playoffs, the playoff atmosphere, they're going to show up.
Yeah.
But they've bamboozled the rest of the country because it's still, we see the issues still popping up after the in-season tournament. What do you see could be done? Do you think it's a trade that needs to happen? And if a trade, who do they trade for? Because now I'm hearing, the Zach LaVine, the DeMar DeRozans, the Alex Caruso, and then today came out DeJounte Murray is on a watch list. So, what's your thought?
Man, it's funny you say they're an old veteran team that they get up for the playoffs, which I think is why they were able to make the run they made last year, which I don't think gets a lot of credit. And maybe it's just because it's the Lakers, right? And the Lakers, kind of like the Dallas Cowboys, people just kind of love to hate them or discredit them. But the fact that they went from the play-in all the way to the Western Conference Finals is really significant, I think. But yeah, I think it's a bit of the come down, right, from the in-season tournament. I think anytime you set a goal and you work really hard toward achieving it and you get it, I think there's just a natural letdown. And I think that's kind of just the gift and the curse of the in-season tournament. It's something new. It was exciting. It was something that I think majority of the teams really bought into and wanted to go out and win. But there's always that letdown on some sort of championship, and it just so happens that the Lakers had a game 2 nights later, right? And then they went on some ridiculous stretch of not ridiculous, but they went on a stretch of games on the road. So they didn't really get that. If you think about the finals, if you win in the finals, you got 3-4 months before you got to start thinking basketball again. They had 48 hours. So I think part of that's at play. But also the teams just really they're okay defensively, but offensively they just struggle. They're like in the bottom 3 teams, I think, in 3-point percentage shooting. You take if Bron and AD aren't doing well, there's really nobody outside of Austin Reeves that can step up and go get you a bucket. And even with him, because he's coming off the bench, it's kind of hard to get him the kind of minutes he needs to really have, he'll have impact, obviously, but to maximize his impact, it's really hard if he's sitting for the first, 6 minutes of the game before he comes in. So I think that, there's a number of issues. And then, they've been hurt. They just got like most of the roster back, and then Gabe Vincent got hurt again. Vando has kind of been working his way back. So I think you kind of put all that together, and I won't say it's great, but I think the fact that they have the record that they have they're actually in a pretty good spot, I think. Not as good as not where we want to be, but they could be in a lot worse position. But I think, they're probably going to need to do a trade. I think the D'Lo benching is some sort of a sign of that. I don't know that he's played more than 17. I think it's only 2 games, but I think he played 17 minutes the first game. I think he might have played even less on Christmas Day yesterday. So he's probably going to be moved. He's got a player option, so I don't know what that means for next year. But yeah, I mean, I fought against the Levine trade for so long because it's like that shiny, it's like that shiny thing, right? That you're not feeling well, you down, you're like, man, it sucks. And you got this little thing over here off in the distance. And you're like, oh man, what is that? That looks, I think I might want to go see what that is. And I'm not convinced that he's the guy, right? Chicago's got a winning record since he got hurt. He got hurt November 28th. I think they're like 7-3, 7-4, something like that. I think that sort of speaks to your value if you can go down and your team immediately starts winning, right? Now he's a talent. I'm not saying he's not. And he can go get buckets and he can drop 50 on you like without really trying. And you pair that with LeBron and AD. Obviously, LeBron can get the most out of teammates, or most of his teammates. It's kind of interesting, but I don't like the move because you probably have to give up, some really important pieces. So I don't know if that's the move. Murray's interesting. He's shooting a career high, I think, in 3-point percentage, or at least on more than like one attempt. I think he's shooting like 38%, 35 on catch and shoot threes, which is really good for him. Somebody who is really just primarily like a defensive player coming into the league. So that could be interesting. He's got a lower salary, so you don't maybe have to add as many players. So maybe you do D'Lo in a draft pick, or maybe D'Lo in a couple of draft picks, something like that. But I don't know. Something probably needs to happen. If it's a trade, I think we'll know if we need to make a trade here, like within the next couple of weeks, depending upon how the team does. If we continue to lose more than we win, I think you just kind of have to do something, right? You're the Lakers. You can't not be an above average team, or at least not without trying, to right the ship. So it's stressful. Anytime they play, I got a glass of scotch to try to take the edge off a little bit, but no, I think all things considered, they're in an okay spot, but I think the next couple of weeks will tell us a lot about the direction they take, especially once January 15th comes and pretty much everybody's trade eligible. We'll kind of see what's going to happen then.
Yeah, I think the injuries played a huge factor. I think Vando being back is going to be huge for the defensive end. He looked like he was working on his offensive game this summer, with Bron and working with Phil Handy. So I kind of want to see if Vando got a little bit more to offer on the offensive end, be like a true 3-and-D guy.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's just like the thing. My concern is just I don't want us to be wasting the prime Bron years. Like, he's not in his prime, but to be at this age and still performing this high, he don't have that many years left. Like, I know we like to, think, oh my gosh, year 21, he's unstoppable. At some point, it's going to have to slow down at some point. So I think like that window is so small and is huge that, from the play-in to get to the Western Conference. But a top 4, top 5 seed would probably be a little bit better this year. It would
Right.
make things a little bit easier
Yeah.
to not have to do that. And I think they was tired by the time that came to that point against the Denver team outside of the Timberwolves was just cruising. Like,
Right.
it was a lot. Now, looking at it, what do you think of LeBron's time since he's been there? To your point of X, Twitter, you saw the different viewpoints like, yo, LeBron hasn't been successful with Los Angeles because there's only one ring. Are you of the same mindset being that, Lakers is all about championship, and he only has one?
No, I'm not of that train of thought. I think it's been a success. I think it will be a success because you're talking about a team that their last championship before he got there was in 2010, right? And then the last 3 years of Kobe, I think it was two early playoff losses, and then they didn't make the playoffs after that. 17 games they won the last year Kobe played the farewell tour. You got the baby bull. You had not the baby Bulls, the baby Lakers. I think the most they won was like 35 games. Bron shows up the next year in 2019. They're in playoff contention, I think, right around the All-Star break. And then he had like a hip injury, right? And then he missed most of the rest of the season. So the next year, I think, was bubble, right? And then they win the Mickey Mouse ring, I think they call it. So if he's healthy, when he's been healthy, they've contended. And I'm of the mindset that the bubble was probably the toughest circumstances you can win a championship under, not because like a home court advantage or anything like that wasn't in play, but just think about it, right? Like none of us living have ever gone through a pandemic before. I don't think, I'm not a history buff, but I'm pretty sure nobody's ever been who's living has ever been through it before. So you're talking about being isolated, in Orlando or wherever they were for however long it was, like just the kind of mental stuff you got to go through to keep yourself locked in. And they had to test, like every time they left their room, they had to test. It was, I couldn't have done it. So I think the fact that they were able to win, I think that's significant. That is not you don't need to put an asterisk next to the championship in 2020. So yeah, I think Bron's stint in LA has been a success from a team standpoint and a personal standpoint. They've won like 233 games while he's been there, only lost 197. Again, when he hasn't been hurt for an extended period of time, they've been in the playoffs and they've contended. I think other than that, they lost to Phoenix that 1 year. Can't remember what year it was off the top of my head when Bron was when he had in the post and Drummond was mimicking him on the bench. So yeah, I think I don't know how you can't say. I don't know how you can say it hasn't been a success when the reason why they traded all those young players for for AD was to win a championship, and they did it. Yeah, you always want more, but I mean, one in 6 years, I don't think is pretty bad considering how many teams don't have any, like ever. So, yeah, I think it's been a success. I don't know how it ends. I don't know if he gets one more. The West is tough. It's probably going to come down to seedings and matchup and who's healthy and who's not. I think this year, depending upon if they make a trade, who they get, I think could be maybe one of their best chances, considering, like you said, the drop-off is bound to happen at some point for him individually. But, yeah, I think it's been a success. Yeah.
I think, to your point, too, though, these type of conversations should on Threads and within the right community, because the conversation on Twitter before Threads came about LeBron's tenure in LA was very either up here, like, oh, LeBron, everything he did was right, or it was down here like, yo, he sucks, he only got one ring, this, that, and the third. And people got to remember, though, since his time being with the Lakers, the West ain't been no cakewalk. It hasn't. This is through Steph and the Warriors, Nikola Jokic and his rise with Denver, Sacramento young team, OKC balling this year. it's not like when he was in the East, respectfully to that time where it was 10 straight finals. This is completely different. And I think in general, to your point with the Lakers Cowboys comparison, it's the same with Bron.
Yeah.
Bron is just such a, either you hate him or you love him.
Right.
And all for the conversation of the MJ Bron GOAT conversation. If you like Bron, you hate MJ. If you like MJ, you hate Bron.
Yeah. That and I'm glad that conversation hasn't really come up on Threads. I think somebody may have tried to, but I don't think it went anywhere, thankfully. And I think it's to the point now where, like, you've made your decision, right? Like, it's either Bron for you, or it's Jordan for you, or in the case of my cousin, it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like, you've made your decision at this point. Bron's only going to break more records, right? He's got like most of the big ones, and he's only going to pad those essentially, right? So if at this point, seeing what he's done, and not just like the accumulation, but just like the moments, like the streaks, like you said, 10 straight finals. Even before he won, what he did against Detroit when he scored like, what was it, like 17 something straight in the fourth, had Tayshaun Prince like running away from him. So if he's not the GOAT for you at this point, I mean, he never will be. So, and that's fine. Like, everybody gets to have their opinion. So I think it's still a debate that on the right platform gets clicks. And I think that's what's at the heart of a lot of it. Other than people's just natural want to argue for some reason. I don't know what it is. But it's kind of ridiculous. But like I said, I'm happy that Threads, that kind of conversation hasn't really taken off on Threads. Who's to say it won't, right? Because more people are joining every single day. But I think we've got enough OGs in the community to try to kind of stomp that fire out before it gets burning too hot. But yeah, that's definitely the kind of conversation and just crap I was trying to get away from on Twitter, because it was like every day, and then you get the Skip Bayless clips coming in, him and Unc and Shannon going back and forth, and it was entertaining, right? Because Shannon and Skip are entertaining when they were still vibing with each other. But it's like, oh my God, like, didn't we just talk about this? Like, we just talked about this yesterday. How many times are we gonna do this? So, yeah, I'm sorry, I kind of go on tangents, but yeah, I think, I think Bron has done a lot for LA, because they were in a bad place, and I don't think those young boys were really gonna do anything together, had they not traded for AD. If it just been Bron and those boys, I mean, maybe they get better, but the purpose, is to win a championship. And with a handful of exceptions, the best way you've done that is having stars, throughout the history of the league. So if there's a star available, you go get it, even if that means your long-term window shortens a little bit, because championship is that worth it. So them getting one in the first 6 years, I think is really impressive, to be honest.
Thinking about it too, like, I talk about this all the time with my circle of people. Like, I got a couple of coaches that I know, and one of them told me, shout out to Coach Mingo, he was like, Tone, you can't talk basketball with everybody. You can't talk basketball with everybody. You just can't do it. And to your point, I don't even think it would have been a problem so much, like, if it came up on Threads, like you said, the OGs would stomp out that fire. Yeah. But I think the community, though, it would be more of a discussion in a respectful way, where it's like, yo, I think MJ the GOAT because this, that, and the third. Yeah. Now, MJ's the GOAT because Bron is not clutch. And then when you look at the numbers, Bron is actually clutch.
Right.
Like,
more clutch than
exactly.
People I don't want to name. I don't want no stands to come for me. But more clutch than a couple of people most people wouldn't believe. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I'll say one of the names, because I was a huge Kobe fan growing up.
Right.
And the way that sports media and sports talk every single day will portray it.
Yeah.
Kobe's one of the clutchest players that ever walked the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And then you look at the numbers, as Unc would say, skip. LeBron is clutch, but like that's what you're saying. Like, I like having my podcast, Loose Ball Boys, where it's like the conversation doesn't have to be like the first takes of the world, where it's always LeBron has 41 night. The next day he's talking about, so LeBron the GOAT? Like, y'all bring up that conversation like 2-3 times a week. It's disgusting. Like, y'all ain't got nothing else possibly in the world of sports to talk about and to have these same old tired debates.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really exciting time for the league. Like, OKC is the third best team in the West, and they got a roster, man. Like, and a big old bag of draft picks to go with it. Like, Shea is playing amazing. Like, and we shouldn't be surprised. He was first team all NBA last year. So, like, that's going on. Timberwolves are like legitimately good. I'm not gonna lie, and I know Sarah's probably gonna come for me if she ever sees this, but they were winning. They had like 10 wins, okay, 11 wins, 12 wins. I was like, all right, it's the Wolves, right? Like, this isn't real. Like, the bottom's gonna fall out at some point. But no, after actually watching them, they finally got the Gobert Cat thing figured out. Conley, has always been underrated, I think, and has just been a really, really good point guard. And Ant is just like, I don't know what you do with Ant. Like, it's like that team was just good. Like, the Timberwolves are good, and that's just not. Those aren't the normal headlines you hear about on like a Twitter or even with mainstream media. They've done better, here recently, as I think most people have started to figure out and pay attention. They're like, nah, Minnesota's legit. Their defense is best in the league. But yeah, there's just but there's so many different pockets of good things happening in the league that you can find if you really look for it or care about it, to be talking about who's the best player ever. Like, we got all like Luka's just dropped 50. And is averaging like 30, what is it, 30, 38, 33, something, 8 and 8 and something, like
9 and 8, something.
And I swear, is the slowest moving dude I've ever seen play ball and dominate. Like, I'm like, oh, he's about to go right there. And he'll go there. But he's still laying it up, or he's spinning back and getting somebody up. And then, like, I don't know how he does it. Luka is, and that's not hate. Like, I appreciate his game like 1,000,000%. I don't know how he does it, but I swear, if he is the slowest moving dude I've ever seen dominate a basketball game, like, I feel like Kyle Anderson moves faster than Luka Doncic, but Luka's just that dude. So I'm not hating. Hey, he's amazing. He'll probably be one of the top whatever greats when it's all said and done. But that's just like, there's just so much good stuff going on in the league right now, to be wasting our breath on, Jordan or LeBron. So I'm glad we don't have to deal with that on Andres.
Facts. And as you mentioned earlier, student of the game, love basketball. I'm the same way. I got league pass. I'm turning it on whatever game is on. On the East Coast, the 7:00 games come on first. That's typically the Indiana Pacers games, the Nets games. Those go on first. Watching all of them. For you, if you had to choose, because now it's open, people are doing their all-star voting. It was 3-on-1 for Christmas Day. You got extra votes for that. Who's your Eastern Conference starters and who's your Western Conference starters?
Yeah. I
know it's
it is
tough this year. It's a loaded across the board, East and West, especially. God bless your picks on this one. The guards.
Yeah, the
guards in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at any lead or starting off guard in the league, and it's like, it's not off. You don't have an easy night. Like, you just don't. Like, the guard play in the league is just at another level right now. I would probably go with Halliburton. I think he was probably one of my easier picks. I think he kind of got off to a crazy start at the beginning of the year, and I think the Pacers, kind of like the Lakers, have kind of come down from that in-season tournament high, and he's come back down to earth a little bit. But I still think he's tough on any given night, especially just the way he takes care of the ball. and his shooting percentages are just like, it's like in another stratosphere. I don't know, especially with such a hitch in his shot. I don't know. It looks like his shot looks like when your 2K glitches when you playing online, like somebody pulls the Ethernet, like your opponent pulls the Ethernet cable out and the game freezes. Like that's what it looks like when he shoots. But I mean, he's not hitting the rim on these things. Like they're just literally just dropping in. So shout out to Tyrese. So yeah, Tyrese Halliburton. The one I really struggled with was the other guard position, the other backcourt, because my heart, because I'm gonna be dramatic. My heart wanted me to pick Brunson, but I feel like Maxi's just had a really good year just because the way his usage has increased, but his efficiency, I think, has actually gone up. Like usually usually the efficiency goes like this when the usage goes like this. So, I mean, you could really go either way, I think, with those two. But I went with Tyrese Maxey as the other guard. So the backcourt of the Tyreses. Other than that, Giannis, Embiid, and Tatum, I think, are all pretty solid and I guess obvious choices. But yeah, that the guard position was tough. There's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of good guards out there. So, but that would be my East. Did you ask me about West? Do I need to give you my West? West, this is tough because I don't know if like Luka's a guard. I guess most people would categorize Luka as a guard, but he's like 6'8", 6'7", like 2. Right? Like
yeah, he's a tank. He's a tank.
Yeah, he's probably way more than what they list him at. But I'm for the sake of this, and it made my picks a little easier. It made me easier to live with myself. I consider him a forward, right? Now that might be blasphemous. I know people probably say he's a guard, whatever. Make your own picks. So I like Shai Gilgeous, right? I mean, SGA he's box office. I'm gonna get the legacy pick, Steph Curry. I think his numbers have come down a little bit from earlier in the year, but he's had to carry a whole lot. Like I think more so this year than any other year before, where he hasn't gotten hurt and missed a large stretch of the season. You know, Clay was struggling early on. He's been playing a lot better lately. Wiggins was struggling. Chris Paul really isn't. Chris Paul still has impact, right? But he's not like, Chris Paul of 3-4 years ago. So, Draymond's been in and out of the lineup. So the fact that they've just gone, they just had their streak stop against Denver yesterday, but they had won like 5 straight. I think for them to be where they are, they got Kuminga and Pods playing more. So I think that elevates their outlook a little bit, to be honest, because they've been playing really well. I think Kerr has figured out some lineups that he was kind of searching for earlier in the year. And Clay playing better, I think, helps a lot of that. He's looked more like Clay lately, especially on the offensive end. So all that kind of considered, and it's Steph. Like who don't like Steph? So I put Steph as my other guard. Luka would be my one of my forwards. Bron, of course, 45 years old and averaging 25, 7 and 7. And shooting. Crazy thing about LeBron, I was looking the other day. Somebody else had posted this, and I think one of the stat nerds on Threads confirmed it. But like he's shooting better from 3 this year than at any point in his career. I think he's at like 41%, or 40. It's like something crazy like that. And if you look at his LA numbers, they're better than his career numbers, which is, I don't know what you say. Like I kind of run out of ways to describe how I feel about LeBron James, a basketball player, because he's just doing stuff that like we've never seen before. And he doesn't really look, I mean, the lift isn't there. The explosiveness isn't really, it's there in like very small spurts. And he's definitely more human now than he's ever been, but like he's still able to dominate a basketball game. Like the other night against OKC, he scored like 15 of the last 18 points of the game, like at 38. So anyway, I don't know how you don't put him in your lineup. So LeBron and then Jokic. So those are my starters.
Solid list right there. I don't got no disagreements. I do want to point out for those that's watching, Embiid definitely has to be in that MVP conversation. His stats have gone up from last year when he won to this year. More points, the shoot percentage is better. He's getting more rebounds, which is what I've always begged Embiid to do. You're too big. You should be averaging at least 10, 11 boards. He's doing that this year. They're still a top 3, top 4 team without Harden. And like you said, Maxey, that's wild.
Yeah.
You're getting the ball more. The ball's in your hand more, and you're more efficient.
Right.
That typically don't happen. You don't take more shots, and then your percentages go up.
Right.
It's kind of like, dang, we should have got James out of here a little bit sooner.
Right. Yeah, I got it 1 year too late.
Like you said, the storylines, they figured it out over there in Clipperland, which I ultimately don't think is going to work because they're too small.
Yeah.
But they figured something out.
Yeah, I live a good life. I'm married. My wife and I are both healthy. We got 3 beautiful young girls. And I've accomplished a number of things. I'm 36 years old. But when I tell you the best time of my life was like those 2 weeks when the Clippers were booty. Oh my God, it was fantastic. I tell you, man, Lakers could have lost. I don't care. The Clippers still suck, right? But now, like you said, man, they put it together. It was like 9, 8. They won like 8 straight, I think, before they lost the other night.
Yeah, they're like 8 out. They won the last 9 out of 11, I believe. Something.
Yeah.
And Kawhi looked like he back to himself. Now he's been out the last couple of games, and that's been those losses. But when he was playing, at that point, he played like every game of the year. And I'm like, if Kawhi's doing that, that's scary for the league because it's literally just been with Kawhi. How many games are we going to see him? That's literally all it's been with Kawhi.
Yeah, I think they're at their best when Paul George is like the guy when things run through him, run first. But you got I kind of knew it wasn't a matter of if it was a win, right? Like they got too much talent to not win games in a league where just sometimes talent it just matters more than sometimes anything else. But I think they are small when they go with when they try to close with like Zubac, either Terrence Mann or Russ, James, Harden, and then Paul and Kawhi. I do think they get kind of small. And then when Russ and Harden are on the floor, this is just like defense is just like abysmal. It's just like all right, here you want to go. All right, there's a lane. Just go on so I can take the ball out and we go back the other. Like it's just bad. Which really, if you think about it, it's really inexcusable considering how long they've been in the league. Like y'all ain't got no better on defense. Like you had all these years and you still like just Olay defense all over the place. But I didn't mean to cut you off. But yeah, I think Kawhi's look good. I'm actually happy to see him back playing, after being injured, so many of the last few years. It's nice to see them playing well. I don't like to see it when they play the Lakers. I know they haven't played yet this year, but anytime they're not playing the Lakers, it's cool to see them all doing well because I like all of them individually. Obviously I like Ty Lue. It's hard to go from. He's had to coach some teams, man. You think about those Cavs teams, just managing LeBron at like the height of LeBron, right? And I think the fact that they were able to get that one is great. So it's cool to see his ascension as just like some little bench dude who got stepped over by Iverson in 2001 to a pretty insane career if you look at it, and then to move into coaching. I think he came up under Doc Rivers. So yeah, it was the Clippers are nice. It'll be interesting to see what they look like come playoff time.
All right, we got one more question before we transition to the fourth quarter segment. For those that seen it before, you already know. For those that don't, fourth quarter segment, that's how we end off the show with some more fun questions, rapid fire, get to know the person, the guest even the more. Last question. We talked about it on Threads, which I love, and I know you love it too because you have 3 daughters, but I have 3 sisters. I've coached it. I've recruited for it. Women's basketball.
Yeah.
WNBA, Indiana Fever have the first pick. You're the GM, you're the owner, you're in that room, and they're like, hey, Dave, who should we take number 1? Who are you taking number 1 overall?
I think it just kind of, it has to be Caitlin Clark, right? I mean, and that's no disrespect, right? And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm as familiar with WNBA or women's college. I actually don't really pay that much attention to men's or women's college basketball. With so much just life, there's really only one sport I can really like dedicate my time to, and that's the NBA. But I definitely want to make more of an effort to be as knowledgeable about the WNBA and the players and the teams and stuff as I am with the NBA. And the game has, I think, has made some really good progress just in terms of overall interest, I think, here within the last few years too. So but I don't know, I just feel like it has to be Caitlin, assuming she's there, right? Like if she's available. I mean, you think you got the ability to pair her with the person who won Player of the Year before her in the League of Boston? Like, you put them together, like, I feel like you're automatically contending. Because Caitlin is like, she came down. I don't know who they were playing the other night. She came down off transition, I think on the left side of the court, and gave like an in and out dribble, like a head fake, and then did a step back. And then from like, like 20, like I was like, I seen enough. Like, I really like. She's just crazy. 30 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. Splits are crazy. I think she's what is it, 40? She's almost at 50%, I think, from the field, 39 from 3. Like, she's just got it. And they played, I can't remember who it was. They played here in Charlotte at the beginning of the season, and they filled out the arena. Like, the Hornets don't even fill the arena out. Like, you go to the Hornets, like, you get nosebleeds in Hornets, you can like kind of walk down almost the court side, nobody's there. So they came through, and like Charlotte was crazy that night. And she's like that big of a draw. And I think if she's there, just from a talent standpoint, and then like an economical standpoint, right? Like what her presence on your team means from a business side. I think you kind of have to go with her if she's there. So that would be my pick, which a lot of people probably be like, oh, duh, it's Caitlin Clark. But like, sometimes when it's obvious for a reason, right? Like, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like, she's, probably the best player in women's college basketball. So just make it easy.
Somebody posted on Threads, and I think I saved it. They were saying even like her shooting splits is a little bit better than Steph Curry's, they were saying at one point. Because I'm like, Caitlin Clark, I think that would be great for Indiana, like the economic aspect too. You got the Pacers are playing well now. Tyrese, Miles Turner, and them boys, they actually balling. And then you have the women's side doing it too. That would be huge. I do want to shout out, she's not eligible, which for those that's watching, y'all can let me know in the comments on YouTube and everything. I think the WNBA should allow players just like in the NBA to come into the league after a year or two. Because Juju Watkins, I think she had a span of like 7 straight 30-point games. Juju might be ready right now. The way she killing it, Juju might be ready right now. But Caitlin Clark, definitely, that's the number 1 overall pick. Don't overthink it. Hopefully she comes out. The thing is, because of how great she is in her NIL, she don't even gotta come out.
Yeah.
But hopefully she does come out. I think it'll be great for the league. Fourth quarter, we ask every single guest.
Okay.
What is your favorite meal? What's your meal to go? Your favorite thing?
My favorite meal. I don't know why I'm sitting there acting surprised like you didn't. I swear I forgot about this question. I was like, man, that sounds familiar. I was like, oh yeah, he told me he was gonna ask me this. Damn. I'll be honest. My wife can cook, man. Like, there are very few meals she's cooked where I haven't felt like it's the thing that she's ever made. So really, if my wife is cooking, it's my favorite meal. That's kind of a bit of a cop out, but my other option is it doesn't do well for the stereotypes. But when I was growing up, my mom's fried chicken, mac and cheese, mashed potatoes. Like, you know what I'm saying, like it's good. You know what I'm saying? My mom can cook, so you know. It's not good for the stereotype, but it's true. Sometimes stereotypes exist because it's true. So that would be my second answer if I couldn't choose whatever my wife's cooking. But nah, Jess is phenomenal. If she really wanted to get into like culinary stuff and become a chef, she could. But she doesn't like to. She likes to keep her passions and her hobbies separate from like livelihood, right? She doesn't want to have to rely on cooking because that'll kind of take the joy out of it. So, yeah, that would be my answer. So, shout
out to your wife too. I listened to one of the episodes, and I saw it like happening to me in real life, where she was talking about, a lot of people sometimes be like saying, "Oh, he's a good dad. He's a good dad," and it'd be the bare minimum. I be seeing that on the reg. Like I thought about it. Like I'm walking around, I'm just walking my son to the bathroom.
Yeah,
just normal stuff. He need his pamper change. Gosh, wow, you're a great dad. I'm like, thanks. I think on some level it needs to be said. For the appreciation, words of affirmation. But
right,
come on, like,
yeah. The funniest thing.
All we do is insert. They didn't got to carry for 9 months. They got to go through morning sickness, and we just be sitting back, chilling, supporting. Like, you feel me? They go through a whole lot more. I'm so glad God made me a male, because I couldn't do it.
Absolutely, hands down. And the funniest thing about that episode is, we naturally take counterpoints. I think just for the enjoyment of like debating one another. But she's actually right, and I didn't notice it until after we had that conversation. So I take my girls out once a month. We haven't done it the last couple of months because everybody's been sick, but I'll take them out to breakfast once a month. It's daddy-daughter breakfast. So I'll go out, with all 3 girls. So we go to the same spot just to make it easy, and they're kind of familiar with us. So it makes everything kind of seamless. They know what we need when they see us coming. And I'll be damned every time I go in there. I get taps on the shoulders and thumbs up, and old black ladies coming up like, I really appreciate what you're doing now. It's like, thanks. I'm just eating breakfast with my children, but I guess I'm doing something. Like, if you have me really feeling accomplished, man, like, damn, I'm doing something in life. But I'm like, wait a minute, I'm just out here eating with my kids. So yeah, no, she definitely had a great point, and I think from a societal standpoint, I think we could do a much better job. Even like put dads aside, like forget dads. I think we could do a better job of just having. We'll never be able to empathize with women and moms, but I think we could like listen and sympathize and realize that like even if it's just one mom with one newborn in the stroller going into the grocery store, postpartum is what. Like, you don't know what she's been through that day from the time she woke up to just putting that baby in the stroller, going into the store. So yeah, women, my wife is my superhero, man. I say it every day. She's just pound for pound. She's the toughest person I've ever met in my life. She's been through some things, personally, emotionally, physically, childbirth 3 times, 1 time without the medicine they give you to like, for the pain. Like, she just toughed it out. Like, she's I don't know. Man, look, I'm about to start. Let me stop, because I'm gonna go off on a whole nother topic. But man, my wife is incredible. But no, for sure, yeah, definitely. Yeah, we could do better as a society, giving mom props and kind of raise the bar for dads a little bit, I think.
Again, check out Rush Vibes, and shout out to both our wives. My wife, my first one, but I'm literally like, yo, I couldn't, if I had to do this by myself.
Yeah.
Shout out to the single parents, but if I had to do this by myself,
yeah,
without mom,
it's not happening. It's not happening. Yeah.
Now you mentioned it, your whiskey, bourbon, cigars. Give me your favorite bourbon. Give me your favorite whiskey.
I really like Woodford Reserve. That was like the first like spirit I really got into. I haven't always been a consumer of alcohol and tobacco. It started about a little bit before the pandemic, but that's kind of when it took off. Like my first drink ever, I was actually 21. It's such a loser, man. Like waiting until 21 to drink. I was 21 and it was like a Bud Light. Like that was my first drink, and I pretty much kept it around beer for the most part, occasionally. But my wife like loves spirits. Like she's into cocktails and mocktails, even though it's, like just like everything about the spirits business. That's her passion. So when I met her, I really started sort of expanding a little bit. But really landed on whiskey and bourbon around 2020 when I really got into cigars because they pair so well together. So Woodford is my favorite just because it's great in any environment. Like if you want to make an old fashioned, it's a great base. If you just want to sip it cold, you could drop a couple cubes in there and you can sip it. Or if you just want it neat, it tastes great no matter how it's presented. And that's the case for some other ones, but that was kind of my first, so I'm a little impartial to it. So definitely Woodford. For cigars, like I say this to my mom, and I said this to my mom the other day or yesterday because my nephew had bought me some cigars for Christmas, and he's always like paranoid. He's like, I don't know, because you're really into it. I don't know if this was the one for you or whatever. And I just told him, I was like, yo, if it lights, it's good. Like as long as it lights up, I was smoking it. So I'll smoke any kind of cigar, but probably my favorite producers would probably be Perdomo, Caldwell cigars, and Foundation cigars. So I don't know anybody who's into cigars who hears that, they kind of know what I'm talking about. But I can't pick just one singular cigar because I enjoy all of them, and I smoke a lot of them. So yeah, it's hard for me to pick just one. But those are probably my three favorite brands that I smoke.
Yo, funny story. So growing up, right, with cigars, my pops would always say stuff like, yo, for celebration, we're gonna go get a cigar, we're gonna go do this, we're gonna get a cigar. Oh, baby's born, we're gonna go get a cigar, right?
Yeah.
So I watched a lot. I liked Carmelo more so off the court, the fashion sense. He's into cigars heavy. So I'm like, between my pops and Mello, I'm gonna go try cigars. So the first time I ever had cigars, I had it a couple times having cigars. My pop see it on Instagram. He's like, oh, you got a cigar? I'm like, yeah, we got to light one up one time, right? So we in person. He's like, yeah, so what do you do? Like, how do you hold it? Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? You've talked about cigars like my whole life. I actually never smoked one.
Oh, man.
You told me the reason why I even started, and you've never smoked one? He's like, nah, I just saw that they did it. Like, for celebratory, they always had a cigar in their mouth. I said, pops, hey, yo. Like,
oh, that's funny.
Funny
That's
story.
great.
That was my funny story with cigars. Like, I'm not as of an expertise as you, but yeah, that was my funny story. I got into it literally because of my pops, who never smoked one. To this day, still hasn't smoked one. And because I saw Mello, I liked his fashion sense and how he carried himself off the court and whatnot. So that's my cigar story right there.
Yeah, cigars are cool because it's like an experience every time you smoke one, right? Like it's not like a cigarette. No disrespect to cigarette smokers. Oh, them joints is nasty. I'm just gonna say it. But like you can just go out anywhere and just smoke. Like when you smoke a cigar, you have to commit to it, right? Because they don't taste as good. The experience isn't as good if you have to relight it. So whatever kind of length you pick, you got to make sure that you got the time to allot to actually smoking it. And then when you talk about pairing it with a spirit, right? You got to get the right spirit to bring out the right notes to make the pairing, make the pairing perfect. If you go out, right? Like it's just, I that's what really appealed to me was just how great the experience of a cigar is, and really the experience that happens around it, especially if you go out to a lounge. Most cigar lounges are like barbershops, right? Like, yeah, come in the house, we're talking about whatever. Or if you just want to kind of sit to yourself and do your own thing, just, you know, browse the phone, that's cool too. But yeah, I love it. And like I said, I indulge in it probably more than I should, which I hear about regularly. It's like, you smoking another cigar? But yeah, I love cigars. But yeah, most of the experience is what kind of pulled me in. So I hope that that's everybody's experience, that they really enjoy all the different pieces that go into having a cigar. It's not just as simple as sitting down, cutting and lighting.
Now we, you know, for those that's watching and listening, you know, Dave asked me before, like, how long the episodes typically are. I told him a certain time frame. That time frame we're over.
Oh, we're over.
I'm not gonna,
it's probably my fault. I'm sorry.
No, I have no problem.
Okay.
I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No.
Good.
I'm fine. I'm good.
So I would have asked 2 questions and we ended off the show. For those that's watching it, make sure y'all go check out Rush Vibes. Make sure that you subscribe to this. Share it. You can share it with your baby mother you don't talk to anymore, your uncle, your cousin. We don't care. Share it with everybody. Give me, if you were the GM, right? Because we talk about it on threads and everybody's voting for him to end the streak, hopefully tonight, so they don't have the record.
Who they play tonight?
Nets. They're back with the Nets.
Oh, okay. That could happen. Maybe.
What would you do to like fix the Pistons? Because I think it's such a bad 26 games losing straight.
Yeah.
I don't know if they know how to win right now. So I don't know if the streak actually ends. Like, I think I was the only person on threads that really was like, nah, they're going to lose. They're going to get 26. It's going to be 26. I'm not rooting for them to lose, but
yeah,
that much losing, it can't be good.
Yeah, I think the fact that they couldn't beat Utah without like Markkanen, Horton Tucker, Clarkson was out. Clarkson was out too. Yeah, that was bad. That was bad. What would I do? I think the first thing, which it might actually, people be like, what are you talking about? I wouldn't panic because you already suck, right? Like, let's just be real. So it's not like there's pressure to not suck because you do. Man, you know, I probably could have used cleaner language. You know, they try hard. The Pistons try hard, but I mean, you are what you are at this point. So I think from here, it's about development, right? You've got Cade, you've got Ivy, you've got Thompson, you've got Beef Stew, you've got Duran, who hopefully he's not going to have an injury riddled career. You've got Sasser. So I think it's really about not panicking. I mean, you want to break the record, right? I mean, you want to stop the streak. Nobody wants to beat. This is not the kind of record you want to set. So whatever, I mean, that's why you pay Monty Williams like the second or most ever for a coach in the history of the game, right? Because part of coaching is motivating. You got to find some way to reach down deep and keep those guys going night in and night out. And maybe he's the guy for that. Maybe he isn't. Who knows? But I want to see Monty do well. So I hope he's got that in him. But yeah, I wouldn't panic. I would still continue to assess, look what's available on the trade market, but it has to make sense. I know they have a long-term vision. I don't know what it is, but you don't accumulate all these young assets, some of them high draft picks that haven't exactly worked out. So you're kind of giving them a second chance. You don't make those kind of moves if you don't have like a 3, 4, 5, 6 year plan, right? But I would just continue to assess, maybe see what's out there. You know, you're not gonna make a trade that's gonna immediately make you a contender overnight. So you got to be really careful with your salary cap, and things in your financial flexibility going forward. So that would be my first thing. My second thing is I would make sure, like, not even for 1 minute, I don't care if it's a blowout, I would not play Killian Hayes, Asura Thompson, with Cade Cunningham because there's absolutely no space to do anything. Because if I see those two on the court, I'm literally just I'm turning my back and I'm just looking at what Cade's doing because they're not shooting. They can't shoot well. Asor's got a bit of an excuse because he's so raw and he's young and his strengths are on the other side, I think, of the ball. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would stop playing them at all together. And I think they've done that recently. I think they put Ivy in the lineup, which I think has worked out a little bit better for them from an offensive standpoint. And they're working Bogdanovich back into the lineup. But I would probably try to trade him, Bogdanovich. That would probably be my third thing because he doesn't really serve much of a purpose on this team. And you can pretty much treat his contract like an expiring. I think he's got $20 million this year, and then he's on the hook for 19 next year, but I think it's partially guaranteed. So you might be able to get something for that. And he can help a contender for sure. Like that would be a great pickup for somebody, a sneaky good pickup for somebody. And 20 million at this point is almost a bargain. You got cats making 50 million, which is insane to me. No hate. I'm not pocket watch. I'm just saying, like, just where salaries have been since I've been exposed to the NBA to where they are now is just crazy. But I'm happy. I'm happy anytime somebody gets paid, as long as it's legal. So, but yeah, those are probably the things I would do. I don't think there's no quick fix. So you just got to continue to try to motivate, develop, and then see different ways that you can make the team better without kind of blowing up your salary cap going forward.
Hey, if you don't follow Yo Rush, that is right there. If you don't follow him on Threads, you should, because look at the knowledge that he just dropped right there. He just knows off the top of his head what Bogey's contract is. Like that's what you're going to get when you check in with him. He's a student of the game. He loves this game. Like he just is like 20 on this one, and next year is 19 partially guaranteed. Yeah. You don't get that. Y'all be tuning into Sports Center. You getting it right here. Right here. If you just go follow him on Thread, you can get that anytime you want. Last question before we get you out of here. I got to ask, being that you a Lakers fan, you've been a Lakers fan for a minute, who would you say are your top 5 Lakers?
Of all time, right?
All time.
In no particular order. I have to go Magic. Kobe, rest in peace. LeBron. This is another one you sent me ahead of time. I couldn't settle on this one. The last two are killing me. Not because there aren't names to pick, but because it's like I gotta pick out of eligible people. Shaq and Kareem, I would say. Like I feel like that's a really safe top 5. Multiple championships between all of them, but man, I drafted tried to come up with 3 or 4 different lineups, but I always ended up with at least the first 3, and then the last 2, it was it's hard to not. Shaq was just so dominant, and then Kareem, all the work, the body of work he put together. So those would be my 5. But are you not? And this, I don't mean to come over and take over the podcast, but you're not going to ask me the top 5 sports moments, because that was what I was looking forward to. I know most people don't come on a podcast in which they're being interviewed and asked for certain questions, but I really wanted to talk about.
I'm glad you said it, because I added that one on probably today, and I totally forgot that I added that to the list of questions. So yeah, that's what we'll end off with. Your top 5 sports moments
for 2023. Yeah. This was so fun because I really only hone in on the NBA. Now you hear things, right? Just by scrolling Twitter, you'll see a headline, or by scrolling Threads, you'll see a headline, or you hear people talking about stuff. But I don't really intentionally sit down and look at NFL news, or look at college basketball news, or look at MLB news. So this was really something I had to sit back and think, what storylines have I heard this year? and this is also in no particular order, but the Miami Dolphins hung 70 points on the Denver Broncos. And this was like weeks ago. If you think about it, it was this season, right? Like 70 points in a professional football game is crazy. Like, your defense is like, everybody should have been everybody on the defense side should have been fired. Coordinator, ball boy, assistant, whatever. Like, everybody should have been gone. 70 points. That's crazy. And then what was it? LSU versus Iowa, the women's championship game. Had Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese with the, you know what I'm saying? That was crazy. That was really, and I don't know if it was so much the game or the drama that came after it that I really enjoyed. It's probably the drama, which means I'm toxic. But I enjoyed it. It was great. Denver Nuggets winning the championship, of course, NBA championship. Not to be confused with the world champions, if you ask what's his face. Because I don't know that I ever, like, I knew Denver was good, right? And like you said, they sort of struggled with Minnesota, but didn't really have trouble with anybody else. I was like, are they really about to win this thing? Like, because every year, you like leading up every year for like the last maybe 3 to 4 years, oh, Denver's gonna be really good. Like Denver, they got some young pieces. They got Michael Porter Jr., they got Murray. Like, you hear that every year, and then they just wouldn't do anything. So I was like, Denver, I don't know, Denver's not about to win this thing. Those boys are legit. So yeah, shout out to the Nuggets, because I know everybody's talking about Boston right now, and Minnesota looks good, but Denver's still the champs till somebody beats them. And they don't look like they've had much drop off, even though they lost Bruce Brown. So so that's 3, right? That's number 3.
Yeah.
Sha'Carri Richardson, the certifying herself as the world's fastest woman at the U.S. Championships. I think she ran a 10.82 in the 100-meter dash, and then she dropped the bar. She said, "I'm not back. I'm better." So that's a bittersweet moment for me, because I remember when she first came out and she had the hair, she had the nails, and she was balling, and then the Jamaicans humbled her. She wouldn't stop talking. Like, she kept talking, even though we're like, yo, you just got like, they walked the dog on you, like, literally. But she kept talking. So me and my wife, we were like, yo, we're out. We can't. we gotta put some separation between us and our Sha'Carri fandom. But then she went quiet for a little bit, and she came back, and she was balling. So I had to eat crow. I think we even talked about it on one of our recent podcasts. But I'm definitely happy and proud of her, because that was some adversity she had to face, because she did get beat pretty badly. But to come back and then win and certify yourself as the fastest woman in the world, I think that's big time. So number 5 is it's really not. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna apologize ahead of time, but I could not mention this. But Draymond Green putting Rudy Gay in that chokehold was by far. I know I said no particular order, but that's got to be number 1 for me, because it happened like 30 seconds into the game, and Draymond just, like, that was an experience on Threads. Like, we talked about that thing for what, like a week, I think. Oh my gosh. But it was great. It was fantastic. Like, I didn't see it live. I think we were out somewhere, and we came home, because my wife, she does like to watch the Warriors if the Celtics aren't playing. So we turned in. No, actually, I think we were watching another game, and then I saw my Threads. I'm like, yo, what is? So we turned over to the Warriors, and that's how quick it was, because by the time we got to the game, it was over. So I actually learned what happened on Threads, because so many people were posting the video, and then of course the memes started flying. And I was like, yo, this dude ran across the court. He didn't try to hit nobody else. There were like 3 wolves around Clay. He went straight at Rudy and put my man in a headlock for like no reason. I ain't never in my life on a basketball court thought, I'm gonna go put this dude in a chokehold. like you got to go to a different place, man. I don't know where he went, and hopefully I never find out. But like I said, that night was an experience. So that's probably shouldn't be on the list because everything else has been like broken records. And I'm talking about a meme, but no, that was great. That was must-see TV.
It was so shocking. I was watching it live. I couldn't even go post on Threads quick enough. I'm like, there's no way. Like literally, it was like bang, 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 bang. Clay, his jersey getting ripped, and then out of nowhere, not even in the camera screen of the NBA game, you see him come into the camera, sprint, all out sprint, and choke Rudy Gobert with his teammates around watching.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Afterwards, we got fighting a locker room. Ant-Man, I want to smoke with you. Mike, like, why y'all all just sitting here watching Cat? Y'all didn't attempt to pull this man off of me. Yeah. Nah. After that, I'm like, yo, we about to go on a losing streak because there's no way. Like, that's got to mess up team chemistry.
Yeah.
But him, Nurkic, they all just like, basically, like Nurkic said, that brother need hope.
Yeah. And I hope he gets it too. Like I saw what Shaq said, and I think there's very clearly, even if it's not like, you know, I don't want to get too into it, but even if it's not like something like a disorder or something that's treatable, like I think he just has like anger management issues clearly because he doesn't have the ability to kind of stop. Right? It's just he's either under control or he's peak Draymond. So whatever they have him doing, I hope he takes it seriously and goes through it with sincerity. And I just hope it works because he is a great basketball player, and he's an even greater basketball player for that team because of the schemes and everything, and just the way he kind of fits into what they do. And just when you talk about defensively, he's not at his peak anymore, but he's still like Draymond Green makes a lot of the plays that don't show up on like highlights, but you look at the film and you see him cover like 4 different players in one possession. Like, wait a minute. Like, just like literally there are plays where you can just watch Draymond and he will span the entire floor. And like a lot of people, some people call them casuals. I'll say people who don't really, watch the game intimately will miss that. Like you're not trained as a consumer to look for that. You're taught to look for the dunks and the 3-pointers and, crossing somebody, dropping somebody, the moments. But like Draymond is, very few people in the league do and can do what he does defensively. And he's definitely one of the greatest, I think, to ever play the game on that from a defensive standpoint. So I just hope he can get back because they really need him. And if you talk about windows like for the Lakers, the Warriors has to be kind of tight too. So they can't really afford to waste time. So hopefully he can get back. I'm rooting for him. The memes are still gonna fly though.
Oh,
memes are still gonna fly.
Every single time. For those that really like you said, actually pay attention and watch the game, there are no 4 rings without Draymond. A lot of Steph's success is very, very much Draymond.
Yeah.
And Draymond doesn't put up, like you said, it's not a lot in the box score, but the IQ, the mindset, that's one of the few people I think you could say safely is on that same level in that same conversation with Bron on IQ.
Yeah.
That for Draymond, how he sets up the offense, how he literally same like Bron, which again, that's a whole nother topic, whole nother episode to really just talk about Bron's greatness. Because if I see another interview where it's a player talking about Bron was calling out their plays,
right?
Draymond is very similar on the defensive side of being like, yeah, this one's coming here, that one's coming there, and that's something that's really that don't show up in the box score.
Yeah,
that is undermatched. Like you said, hopefully everything he takes it seriously, gets back, especially with. They're actually playing better now. So you add Draymond to this mix with Tracy Jackson, Davis, I think his last name is.
Yeah.
It's like a 2 last name thing, but he's playing better. Andrew Wiggins is playing better. You add Draymond to that mix, it should be good, man. But, we appreciate We appreciate you hopping on with us, hopping on the podcast, taking time out of your busy schedule. Again, we can't say it enough. Check out Rush Vibes. Check them out on Threads. Check them out on Instagram. Check him out. Yeah, on Instagram, if you're trying to get in cigars, whiskey, bourbon, he has plenty up there. So definitely check him out on IG. But y'all know the vibes. If you stay ready, you don't got to get ready. Bitch, Mob out. Peace.